Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez and you are in a new episode of The Final Cut. Today we're going to be going over Lost Boys The Tribe, which is the straight-to-DVD sequel to the cult classic from 1987, The Lost Boys. Yeah, this is going to be a different type of Final Cut review, but for starters I'm going to give like a brief history, synopsis, cast, and my personal thoughts. But as a disclaimer, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I didn't have very high expectations for this. A lot of people were disappointed with this film, and I can see why. However, I wasn't that heartbroken because how good can a 20-year sequel be without any of the original cast with the exception of like one or two actors and straight to DVD? How good could that be to a cult classic? 20 years later, two of the actors coming back, not even the main ones, and straight to DVD. It wasn't really going to be that good to begin with, I feel. So I went into the movie with those expectations, and I originally saw the trailer on I Am Legend, the DVD, and I was like, cool, they're making a sequel to The Lost Boys. I haven't seen a straight-to-video thing since like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island or something. And Corey Feldman's back as Edgar Frog. That's going to be kind of cool. But given the circumstances, I wasn't really raising the bar that high. So we'll go over brief history, synopsis, cast, and everything. Before Lost Boys The Tribe came out, they made a comic book to coincide with the release of the video called Lost Boys Reign of Frogs, which pretty much tells a tale of what happened in between Lost Boys and Lost Boys The Tribe. Pretty much the Frog Brothers find out that the Widow Johnson from the first film turned out to be a vampire, and that the grandpa, the Emerson's grandpa, was kind of a vampire, and they basically get to the Frog's parents, and David comes back along with the Widow Johnson. It kind of incorporates different ideas, and it turns out to be a fictional story, but it shows the origin of Shane, played by Angus Sutherland, and he was one of the surfers that the Lost Boys killed on the beach in the first film. So that was kind of cool. However, it kind of combined different ideas for Lost Boys sequels that went around through the years. The Lost Boys was originally going to have a sequel called The Lost Girls, where Joel Schumacher was going to have Corey Haim's character, Sam Emerson, in college, meet a gang of female vampires. Now that would have been cool. There's a rumor going around that might be the reboot. And then there's another idea of focusing on David, Kiefer Sutherland's character from the original, and it'd be a prequel to show how he became a vampire, and some sequel stuff there. And then there's some other projects, but they fell through, and 20 years had passed. So then they wanted to basically remake The Lost Boys, which they kind of did, and release it straight to video. And they got Corey Feldman for a cameo role to honor the original, and he wasn't interested until they gave a larger role for Edgar Frog. And then the movie kind of took another shape, and then afterwards did again. So I'm going to get into that. Okay, so Corey Feldman, again, is back as Edgar Frog, and along with him is Angus Sutherland, who is Kiefer Sutherland's younger stepbrother. He plays the main villain in this film, named Shane. And Tad Hilgenbrick and Autumn Reeser play brother and sister. Their names are Chris and Nicole Emerson. Same last name as Michael and Sam from the first. And originally it said it was Michael and Star's daughter, but there's another site that confirms that it's her cousins. So I'm going to go with cousins because it would kind of negate the information in number 3. So they star in it, and pretty much it's almost like a beat-by-beat loose remake of the first, but not done as well. So what is the story? Pretty much Chris and Nicole are by themselves. Their parents are gone. They recently died in a car accident. So they moved to Luna Bay, California to start a new life, to live with their aunt. So pretty much it's them. Chris used to be a surfer until he got injured, and then after their parents died, he took care of his sister. So during his time trying to assimilate to this new place at his aunt's, he goes and looks at the bay, and there he meets Shane. And Shane used to be a surfer as well. And as a matter of fact, Chris kind of idolized him when he was younger, but he just fell off the grid. So they become acquainted, and Shane says, "I'm having a party, you should come check it out, man." And they're like, okay, cool. So he brings his sister along, kind of reluctantly. He doesn't want to go to the party. And she's like, I want to have a good time out and everything. So they go to the party, and to make a long story short, Shane sees that Chris has a sister. Some of the rival people in Shane's gang don't like Chris, so they pretty much seduce the sister, and Chris takes her out away from the party. They get into a fight, but Shane now has eyes for his sister Nicole, and they want to turn her. So during the party, she drinks vampire blood, unaware that it's going to make her a half vampire. So on the way home, you think she's just drunk, and she gets kind of sick, and then starts to try to feed upon Chris, until Edgar Frog shows up, and he's like, "I'm Edgar Frog, vampire hunter, surfboard shaper." And he's like, "Get out of my house, you crazy guy." Chris thinks he's nuts, tells him to leave. And Edgar Frog's like, "It's your funeral, pal." Crazy stuff there. Anyway, Chris met a woman at the party and who was trying to seduce him, and she turns out to be a vampire, so they kind of make out, and then he like says no. She gets impaled, blows up. Just crazy lazy effects that way. And Shane's gang is pretty much like Kiefer Sutherland's gang. They're surfer vampires. They go around feeding and just killing and just doing crazy stuff whenever they want to. Tom Savini makes a cameo at the beginning. He was totally wasted in the film, but they just feed upon him and have a lot of language. And there's even an annoying Jamaican vampire. I get to that later. It's like the dude from I Know What You Did Last Summer too. Yeah. Pretty much after that, Chris is like, there's something crazy going around this town, so he goes to Edgar Frog for help, and he's just like, some crazy shit happened in my house last night, and he's like, define crazy shit, and he's like, the woman came over and she exploded. He's like, now that is crazy. And he explains the whole rules of vampires and what can hurt him and what cannot, strengths, weaknesses, whatsoever, and he gives him a Vampires Everywhere comic book, like he did to Sam in the first one. And you discover that there is a past that Edgar Frog's not sharing. His brother's not around. Something happened to a family member, but it's kind of hinted at and not really discovered until later on in the film and the sequel. To make a long story short, Nicole starts to become one of them and the gang of vampires, and Chris basically has to infiltrate the gang and gain their trust in order to rescue his sister, and he becomes a half vampire himself. And it's a matter of crossing that line of joining these lost boys, this tribe, so to speak, or saving his sister and stopping them once and for all from causing any more havoc. So he later on gets Edgar Frog, and they both must defeat the vampires and rescue his sister to make it a safe day. Anyway, that's pretty much a super summarized plot of Lost Boys the Tribe. Yeah, it's kind of a beat-by-beat remake of the original, only not as good, like I said earlier, and you can tell it's straight to DVD. It's directed by P.J. Pesci. He doesn't do a good job here. I don't know if it's a writing budget, but it's just really lazy. And some parts are great. Some of the cinematography is great. The beginning with Too Much, Too Young, Too Fast playing, that was a great opening sequence montage, and the part where he's talking to Shane, Chris is talking to Shane looking over the bay, that was brilliant. Some other parts just felt like it was Russian production, and his films aren't the best, but I thought he did a good job on Smoking Aces 2, and then From Dusk Till Dawn 3, I thought he did a really good job on for it being straight to video. He studied graduate film school under Martin Scorsese. He got honors in Martin Scorsese's class, and I can see why with some of the cinematography here. But he also got an F in Brian De Palma, so I don't know. But you can tell he definitely got honors in Martin Scorsese's class in some parts of this film. It's just that those parts don't carry over to the rest, and a lot of it's the writing and direction. Now, I don't know if it's just the direction of not having an understanding of what makes the Lost Boys, the writing, or the fact that the production as a whole just doesn't understand what made the Lost Boys special, and Warner Brothers Premiere just released a half-assed version of the original Lost Boys as a cash-in to make money. And that's what it feels like. It's definitely not the best film, and for those who are fans of the original, it's not the best sequel you're looking forward to. But my expectations were very low when I first saw it, so even though I knew it was not a good film, I thought it was better than I thought it was going to be. But, in that note, after seeing number 3, it really is dog shit. This movie is not the best movie. Doesn't provide the best scares, and it's ultimately the production quality and the writing that just kills this. The vampires, I don't like the effects. They're good, but they look more like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and not like the Lost Boys. The Lost Boys had a distinct look. Great look there compared to that. And it's just like, what? And the way the Lost Boys act, they have to like swear every 5 seconds, and it feels like, I know surfers and it's a different generation, but they're just jackasses. You don't want to be one of them. They just annoy you, and it's not like the original one with Kiefer Sutherland's gang where you're just like, those guys are cool and I kind of want to be a vampire. This one's like, oh man, there's a whole bunch of douchebags just saying a whole bunch of stuff. You have them saying language, stabbing each other. It's pretty much for the jackass generation of the Lost Boys. And then you have this annoying Jamaican vampire out of nowhere. I mean, it's probably the most annoying Jamaican guy in a horror film since I Know What You Did Last Summer too. Like, seriously. It's like, this is the best they could come up with, really? And it's sad because I feel like Angus Sutherland actually does a good job in this for this role. It's not the best actor. He's not like Kiefer, but I like it because he has a presence as the villain. He's just kind of like a cool, chill guy, but you could tell that he's an immortal. He kind of has fun being this person. He rules everything. He rules these people. He can do whatever he wants to. Never grow old. Never die. Never know fear again. But he must feed, and that's kind of cool, seeing a character like that. I just wish they gave him more to do, like his brother in the other film. Tad Hilgenbrick does okay for this role, and Autumn Reeser's, I guess, good. She's in other stuff, but she did good for this role, and it kind of makes me sad because some of these actors, you can tell, want to get into more serious material, and they're just stuck at this with their career starting off. And I really kind of want to see where these actors go in other projects. I haven't seen too much. I've seen Autumn Reeser in a lot of projects. But I really want to see where these actors go because they're like the better parts of the film. But on that subject, let me get to Corey Feldman. Yeah, Corey Feldman as Edgar Frog. The guy may not be the best singer. He's not in many movies, mainstream movies anymore, as he was when he was younger. And he may not be the best actor, but I tell you one thing. Every actor, even actors who don't act that great, have one good role. And Corey Feldman's one good role that he was born to play, and which Corey Feldman is Edgar Frog, Vampire Hunter. He is Edgar Frog. And it's kind of freaky because even though 20 years have passed since the original, he doesn't look like he aged that much. I'm like, did this guy go through puberty or not? It's crazy. He totally sounds the same as he did in the original. And you could tell he gave his all in this role. He felt like he was the only one trying in this movie. And also, he's the only one from the original to appear for the majority of the film. And you can tell that there's like a continuation from there. We actually get to see a character that we loved and saw in the original Lost Boys, see where his life is now. So some part of it feels like it is a sequel in a way. But that part is kind of hidden with like this cash grab of a remake that's just half-assed. And I don't like that. That's what kills this movie ultimately. It didn't understand the charm and storytelling that made the original film. It's almost like somebody said, oh yeah, the Lost Boys, it's a little PG. Let's add like cursing every 5 minutes, a lot of gore, some sex. And yeah, just call it the Lost Boys and just have it there. These kids will love it, man. It's much better, more edgier. Hip hip hooray. No, they missed the point of what made the first Lost Boys such a cult classic to begin with. And Lost Boys The Tribe could have really done something special, even for straight to DVD. And I feel like they missed out on that. Which is why I think Corey Feldman as a producer rectified the mistakes of this film and Lost Boys The Thirst. So if I had to give Lost Boys The Tribe a score, what would I give it? I would give the Lost Boys The Tribe a 1 out of 5, a 4 out of 10, and a D-. That is my score for Lost Boys The Tribe. But on Corey Feldman, he did have a lot of great one-liners. They had this one line about like, build a man a fire, he stays warm for a night. Light a man on fire, he stays warm for the rest of his life. And then there is a part where one of the vampires was talking about his brother being turned, and he had like these garlic bolos, and he like threw it, and the guy's like, you missed. Then he gets like a holy water balloon launcher, shoots it, blows the guy's head off, and he's just like, pop goes the weasel. Just some funny stuff there. And then speaking of garlic bolos, there is a scene where Chris and Edgar are on the way to the vampire hideout. And it's just like, I have this, a steak, and garlic bolos. He's like, you know what this is? Like, yeah. And he's like, no, I don't know what a garlic bolo is. He's just like, you don't know what a garlic bolo is? Okay, I'll use this. You'll stick to the steaks. And he started blessing everything. He's like, what? Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, I'm an ordained minister. I went online, clicked ordain me. Just some funny stuff there. The other stuff just really bogged the film down, and I have to say one thing though, the soundtrack is excellent like the first one. Not as good with some of the songs, but the songs that are there, they're really good. Yeah, Whatever does some music. Some of the stuff is not released, and I wish it was. The party scene has some good music. The opening, and I like Aiden's cover of Cry Little Sister. It's kind of a good modern tune. That's one of the best parts of this film, and it really does well. And like the love scene between Shane and Nicole, and then the ending. I wish they used it at the beginning, but it's probably my second favorite cover, right under Seasons After cover of Cry Little Sister. But yeah, it is kind of a disappointing sequel, and it's not really a pure, straight-up sequel in a way, you know. But Lost Boys: The Tribe, it's straight to DVD, so what do you expect? It's okay to watch. It's not the best movie, but if you need some time to waste and if you really want to sink that low, then watch Lost Boys: The Tribe. But if you want to see a sequel that's still low budget, but does more with the budget it has, with straight to DVD, and kind of continues more from the original, and Edgar Frog's in a main role, then check out Lost Boys: The Thirst. But I think some of it had to do with the production cost. Warner Bros. Not wanting to pay fully, so they used it under Warner Bros. Premiere. And then Corey Haim was supposed to have a larger role. He's a vampire. Sam Emerson's a vampire in the after credits scene, and they fight. They don't really show it. But there is an alternate ending on the DVD where he comes back, and he's either human or a half a vampire, and he says, Edgar, your brother's coming back, and Jameson Newlander's there, all dressed all cowboy-like. They're trying to pull like a From Dusk Till Dawn thing or something. But that was a better ending. I wanted to see that movie. And I felt like this movie was going to go somewhere else. It's like, I feel like they ended it at the halfway point. You had kind of like a lazy half-assed retread of the original, like I said, but then it felt like they ended it when things were just about to start getting going and start getting good. And I feel like they ended the film too soon. And supposedly, I guess Corey Haim at the time was having trouble with the lines, and I don't know if he was going through like rehab or something. He was cleaning up, and of course, at the end of his career, he was cleaned up and everything. But at that time, they were having trouble with him, so maybe they had to cut his role down and make the movie manageable to release it. Maybe they didn't finish it, I don't know, but you can definitely tell there was a lot of production issues and stuff that the studio was willing and not willing to do for this film to make a true sequel, to make a sequel that fans of the original Lost Boys truly deserved. And ultimately, I felt like they missed out on it, making a good sequel. But what do you expect for 20 years later, have pretty much one cast member return from the original, 20 years later, straight to DVD. That doesn't say it's going to be a good film from the get-go, at least in my experience of watching movies and opinion. So, on that note, yeah, I give it a 1 out of 5, 4 out of 10, and a D-. That is my score for Lost Boys: The Tribe. It's not as everlasting as the original film, but what film is, especially a straight-to-DVD sequel? But that's just my opinion. If you want to go ahead and check out the Lost Boys: The Tribe, go ahead. It's going to be kind of low budget, but it does have a good soundtrack. Autumn Reeser is really hot. I think Angus Sutherland as Shane does a good job, and Corey Feldman's the main reason why this movie is bearable and I can stand it. Corey Feldman makes a movie as Edgar Frog. I just wish there was more of him. So yeah, and if you're disappointed by this film, check out Lost Boys: The Thirst. It's a much better straight-to-DVD sequel. But ultimately, the two sequels are inferior to the original Lost Boys. There is just one Lost Boys film. There's a reason why the original is called The Lost Boys, where the sequels are just called Lost Boys: The Tribe and The Thirst. It's because it doesn't have The Lost Boys from the original. That's just my thoughts, but definitely if you want to, check out Lost Boys: Reign of Frog. It's a pretty good prequel, and the writer of this comic wrote the third film. And it's a lot better in that regard. It's kind of more of a sequel, and again, they can have Kiefer Sutherland's character and stuff from the original that makes it really great. So definitely go to Amazon and order Lost Boys: Reign of Frog, or you can go to Comixology and download it. But definitely check it out. Anyway, that's my review of Lost Boys: The Tribe for this Halloween. Check out my upcoming Final Cut reviews. I'm going to be reviewing Lost Boys: The Thirst, and then we'll move on to other vampire stuff like Interview with the Vampire and Queen of the Damned, as well as all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, starting with Freddy's Revenge all the way to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and we're going to end it off with Halloween H2O. So yeah, definitely check those out. But let me know your thoughts on Lost Boys: The Tribe, whether you liked it or you just didn't like it. Let me know why you don't like it. What's the worst part for you? What do you think of Corey Feldman? What's your favorite Lost Boys film if you're a fan of the trilogy? Let me know if you just hate the sequels and just love the original. I wouldn't blame you. Just let me know all that stuff. Yeah, it's straight to DVD, but Lost Boys The Tribe to the Lost Boys. Yeah, Lost Boys The Tribe has to do with the Lost Boys as much as Queen of the Damned has to do with Interview with the Vampire. It's in the same universe, but it doesn't really follow anything from the original. This film and the sequel are much better to watch if you think about them as spin-offs instead of sequels.